desaparecer o van a asesinar como jugadores de la vida.
3, 2, 1. Stop nuclear testing. 3, 2, 1. Stop testing. How's the sound, person? Thank you. Hi, my name's Jose. Welcome to Politically Correct Cooking, a show about two of my favorite things, food and politics. Now, we have a really special show for you tonight, but before we begin the show, I want to let you all know that we welcome your cards, we welcome your letters, we want to hear from you. Our address will flash on the screen a little later on. I want you to grab a pencil, grab some recycled paper, jot it down, let us know what you think. Now, the reason this is a special show tonight is I was born and raised in Central America, and in the early 1980s, I had a sick feeling in my stomach that something bad was going to happen. And I had this vision of the 82nd Airborne coming across the Agua to Managua, Nicaragua, and pretty much propping up some feudal landlords. But fortunately, that did not occur. And the reason it did not occur was that the people just said no. One of the organizations in the forefront of making sure that did not occur was CISPes. And our guest tonight is from that organization. So, John, come on down. John.
Good evening.
How you doing? Glad you can make it.
Good to be here.
All
Thanks
right.
very much for having me.
Well, it looks great. The food that we have out here, I hear we have a real interesting and unique meal here.
We shall. As you can see, all garden fresh vegetables.
And what's on the menu?
Tonight we're going to be having broccoli burritos, George Bush's favorite.
All right. And before we get into everything, can you tell everybody what CISPes is?
Sure. CISPes was formed in 1980. It's the Committee in Solidarity with the People of El Salvador. It was a grassroots explosion of people from all across the United States, trade unionists, clerical, students, religious, who were outraged at the U.S. government's propping up of a government that was killing its own people, death squads that were running completely
Running amok.
Running amok is the exact word.
Okay.
And we were putting millions and millions of dollars, of U.S. tax dollars, I should say, yours and mine, to prop up this government. And so CISPes formed, and across the nation we've grown to become the largest grassroots solidarity organization to fight the U.S. intervention policies in Latin America, especially El Salvador, to educate the people about what really is happening in Central America, and while that is happening, to fund projects that build true grassroots democracy and build true freedom in El Salvador.
All right. Well, why don't we get the menu going, and
Sure.
then we can do a little more talking about what's going on in Central America?
Sounds great. I was thinking, since I have this nice little parring and coring, I can start the vegetables going, and then
Okay.
I'll pass them on to you.
Now,
And
this recipe here, it's just pretty much off the top of your head here, so if people want the recipe, what they should do is just pay real close attention.
Exactly. They should just watch what we're doing.
Now, we also have over here
some beans. I'll leave
refried
that with-
beans?
Yes, which is, I'm going to add a little salsa here. This is the staple, or has been for years, of most Central Americans, is beans with tortillas, as they say, a pinch of salt. Unfortunately, because we here in the United States enjoy, I'm going to turn this on a very low flame just so it starts heating up, enjoy kiwis and other exotic fruits in the winter, most of the Salvadoran large agricultural business has gone to growing these high cash crops. And so now the Salvadoran campesino has to pay about 3 times their daily wage, which in fact, this pepper, which sells for about $4.99 in most grocery stores here in this country, is more than the Salvadoran farm workers' daily wage of $4 a day. And they have to pay about $8 a kilo for the beans that they eat. And so, as you can imagine, the hunger is growing in Central America.
Now, these tomatoes, do you want them like sliced, diced, chopped?
What I usually do is start them like this, and then you just start cubing them up.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'll let you take over that, and I'll start pouring some other things.
I wanted to ask you about the opening video, about the death squads. Now, the death squads, this was an arm of the military, a secret arm, or?
Well, secret to perhaps the media, which didn't pay much attention to them for a long time. But to the U.S. government, in fact, many of the Salvadoran death squads were trained right down the road here in Virginia at the School for Police Training. And it was basically a policy that grew out of the United States' obsession, and that's perfect,
good tomatoes,
and fear of communism, that everything that they saw, that any peasant, any school teacher, any trade unionist who asked for fair wages in Latin America was a communist. Instead of believing and realizing that what these people were people who were demanding their basic rights, that they were following the same principles that the people in this country did in the 1700s when they broke from an oligarchy.
They just want
they wanted a fair break for their children and for themselves.
Live without fear and repression.
And so the death squads were formed and were exactly what you said, an arm of the military, clandestinely, at night, and in the early 80s and in the 70s, even during the daytime, as you saw in the video, that would go to the homes of people who were union organizers, students, nurses. In fact, 4 U.S. Religious women, 3 nuns and a lay.
3 nuns, I remember that was
in
a big
1980,
story.
The Archbishop of San Salvador, Oscar Romero, and in 1989, 6 Jesuit priests and their 2 housekeepers.
Going back to the nuns that were brutally murdered, didn't the Secretary of Defense say it was their fault?
Exactly. Al Haig at the time tried to say that these nuns, and Jean Kilpatrick backed him up by saying, we have to say that these nuns were political nuns, when in fact what they were doing were shuttling children out of war zones in El Salvador, out of the path of the bombs that we and our tax dollars were paying for. And for that terrible crime of trying to save some children's lives, they were brutally raped and then murdered. And our tax dollars paid for it. And Cispes was so outraged at that, so many hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets. And we all can remember, especially those of us here in Virginia, because protests happened at the CIA building just down the road. They happened constantly.
They closed the Beltway.
Yeah.
It was like a major problem for people
Here we
in
go.
the CIA.
Let me give you this.
Pour this one? Okay. It's all set to go.
And just
how's that coming along?
Check the beans. Oh, they're starting to warm up. Just starting to get a little bit.
Good.
There we go. What we're going to do is move the salsa around so these beans start getting a little bit zesty and nice and scrumptious.
Now, further down the road, we're going to place the tomatoes and all the vegetables we're chopping up into the beans.
Exactly.
And then we're going to put them on the tortillas and have the broccoli burrito.
Yep.
All right.
This would be a festive meal in El Salvador in the countryside, where the average caloric intake is under 1,000 calories a day.
Wow. Well, it's going to be a festive meal here in Fairfax.
That's right.
And I've never had broccoli burritos before, so I'm really looking forward to this.
Well, you're in for a treat.
Now, the tax dollars that we've been spending, we train the military, and we also supply them pretty much with the weapons.
From 1979 onward, we trained Salvadoran military. We had U.S. advisors in El Salvador. We gave them, in 1984, when the United States government decided that the Salvadoran military was losing the war to the Salvadoran rebel force, the Farabundo Martín National Liberation Front, we gave them A-32 planes and napalm, which they began a scorched earth policy. For those of you who are interested in the environment, because of our scorched earth policy, the country of El Salvador, which used to have tropical rainforests, is now listed as the #1 deforested country in the whole of Central America. And the rivers are polluted with heavy metals from the bombs. It's going to take, they estimate, about 10 to 15 years for the environment to recover if the war does not start up again.
Now, during the period of the early 80s, Amnesty International had ranked El Salvador as a place not to be, I guess...
77 was when it really began. Third worst human rights abuser. And throughout the 80s, right up till now, the UN has felt it necessary to keep a human rights watcher, a special rapport, they call this person, who delivers a report every year to the UN body, because there has been such atrocious human rights abuses. What we have found through Army deserters, through testimonies of campesinos, through people who have witnessed the killing, is that U.S. advisors are often there, that U.S. advisors have participated in the training, and in fact are in every single military barracks and have paid for the weapons of the death squads of the torturers. And that is once again why cispes became a movement filled with normal people who suddenly realized either someone visited their church or their synagogue, or someone came to their union and told the stories of what they themselves had seen. We send delegations constantly down to El Salvador and told the truth about what was happening there. And that was why people began to say, this policy has to end.
Have you had an opportunity to go to El Salvador?
I myself have been to El Salvador 6 times, from 1988 until the present. And I've been out in the countryside, I've been in the cities, pretty much all the departments. And what I've seen is everything from, I was in a building that was blown up. I've seen the effects of U.S. policy, and I can tell you, from taking testimony of people whose families have been murdered, massacred, bombed out of their homes, our tax dollars, our policy has been a failure.
From the get-go, huh?
Yeah, from the get-go.
Okay, now, what's going on here? We're going to be doing some tomato loading here?
Yeah, in a second. I'm going to just move this stuff over to the side. This is a efficient use of one pan.
Okay.
In El Salvador, a lot of the times, because people had to move from army operations, which obliterated their entire villages, most people don't have too many provisions. So I've learned from the Salvadorans how to use little and get a lot.
Okay, so this is actually 2 or 3 pans in
all
the good
in
old
one.
US of A.
That's right, exactly.
Okay, so I'm going to let you do the honors there.
Okay. Get these here little babies simmering away.
Okay.
There you go.
Now, the peppers and the broccoli, that comes a little later?
They're going to come a little bit later, yeah. We're gonna turn the heat up a little bit here.
Well, it looks good. This is a campesino meal here.
Yep, this would be a Sunday feast out in the countryside.
Well, it's certainly a feast here.
Yep.
Regarding U.S. policy, we're the good guys. We're bringing democracy and freedom. What happened in El Salvador?
Well, first of all, I think we have to get away from the premise of bringing freedom and democracy. I think the situation has been and always has been in Central America from the 1800s with the invasion of William Walker into Nicaragua, that, as the Democrats said from the floors of Congress, it's in the congressional record, that we're into grand larceny. And before the Soviet Union existed, when we wanted to go invade a country in Central America, we called Germany the evil empire, Japan the evil empire, Britain the evil empire. What we're interested in... We just haven't
looked in the mirror lately.
Yeah, what we're interested in Central America is in its resources, in the fact it has cheap labor and a lot of good land. And what we have done in the last 12 years is, under the guise of the communist threat, intervene militarily there and consistently killed and destroyed lives and people under that threat to try to gain economic leverage. And I know that sometimes from the homes in Virginia and this area...
It's so far away. It's like a world away.
And it's hard to swallow that. You say, oh, come on, that can't be so. So I thought we could, while these fine vegetables and beans were beginning to simmer, take a look at a little video that I have, a juxtapose of a campesino woman, a woman who was too poor to go to school because they had to buy their school desk in El Salvador, who instead went to the 1st and 2nd grade standing and kept on trying to struggle to better her life. She started a community organization in her village, and when the death squads and the army began to come and raid, she and her village stood up and they were bombed out. And when her daughter was murdered by the army and raped, she joined the forces of the Farabundo Martí National Liberation Front, the guerrilla organization that works in El Salvador.
Well, let's take a look at this video of the people that we're supposed to be afraid about.
Take a look at the person you're afraid of, and take a look at George Bush and what he says about the murder of 6 Jesuit priests in 1989.
Let's roll them, and while we're rolling, we're going to be checking out the beans.
The coverage of the war in El Salvador is from the government side.
The goal of the professional guerrilla movements in Central America is as simple as it is sinister: to destabilize the entire region from the Panama Canal to Mexico.
María Serrano me llamo.
My name is Maria Serrano, and I am a revolutionary. I have great conviction and a clear idea of what I want and where I am going.
We are victims of Marxist-Leninist aggression. The FMLN only wants to take power through violence.
I'm not going to ask that mango trees grow mangoes 8 days after planting, because I know that's not possible. But please, building schools and teaching children to read, that's possible. And why not do it if we can?
The question is, why are we supporting El Salvador?
No, the question was, why are we killing priests in El Salvador?
President Cristiani is trying to do a job for democracy, and the left-wing guerrillas must not take over El
Salvador. We are going to fight to the last drop of blood, the mothers to their last child, if that's what it takes to free our country.
When I see George Bush grinning like that, I don't know. I don't know.
Yes, he's been grinning, but I think his grins are coming to an end. I think the world is tired of George Bush and George Bush's friends who make profit off of murder and weapons sales. And when you see somebody like Maria Serrano, who is supposedly this terrible terrorist, this guerrilla leader,
this boogie woman,
and she says the things that she's fighting about, you could chop up that little chili where we're talking.
Like that one there?
Yep.
Okay.
The things that she's fighting for are for her children to have a school, for her people to be able to eat. Not enormous, huge meals like we're actually about to have, but simple ones. And that's what this whole struggle is all about. And unfortunately, we've bought the policies of George Bush and Ronald Reagan and others before him.
This is one hot chill. I can feel my eyes are starting to water here.
Good.
Okay.
They'll water even more when you chew, huh?
Okay, I can't wait.
And they've sold us lock, stock, and barrel. They've sold our industries overseas so that companies and countries that will employ armies that have death squads, that don't allow unions, that don't allow fair wages, will take the jobs that North American workers used to have. They'll take everything. And what's left to us is a weapons industry to prop up these brutal regimes. And what the Salvadoran Revolution, what the Farabundo Martí Liberation Front has realized is perhaps a model for the rest of us, that militarism isn't going to work, that continually fighting wars or selling weapons is a way that we're going to kill each other, but certainly not build a better world. And so that's what is being fought now. In this period in El Salvador, which, for those who don't know, the 12-year war ended officially in February of this year, 92, and I'm ready for that stuff.
Do you want the yellow peppers or these little red?
I'll bring them both on.
Bring them both over? Okay.
And it ended with the signing of accords.
Just slide this on?
Sure.
Okay.
And with the Farabundo Martí Liberation Front making a commitment to the people of El Salvador that they will lead them out of 70 years of dictatorship and militarism to a period of economic growth, of stability, of alternative economic models that mean the little people have a chance, that no longer will their country be ruled and dictated to by oligarchic forces and their death squad armies, that there's going to be a birth of democracy, birth of participatory democracy. And this is what we're talking about in cispes that we want to support, and we think that most North American people would too.
Yeah. Well, I would have to say that if we're able to put everything into that little pan there, that should be possible also.
Exactly. You can put in a little pan enough to feed everybody. And for those who are home watching, there's a crew of thousands here behind the cameras making sure that you're getting the best of cable television. We're going to, after we're done, pass out equal shares to all of those folks. And so this pan has got plenty, and that is the economic example, that you don't build a world built on militarism. You can put one of these tortillas on there and start the process and get your plate from underneath. That's built on only a few profiting. You build it.
We got some salad here. Let me get some salad.
You build it on sharing, and that's what the Salvadoran Revolution has been all about, and that's what cispes has been all about, is a vision of a world solidarity without borders, where we provide for each other, we support each other in each other's aspirations to bring unbiased, participatory democracy and freedom. Why don't we grab? Maybe you can. You're from old Central American background.
Hey.
You can scoop right out there.
If I can't eat a burrito, my name is not Jose Rodriguez.
That's right.
Jose Rodriguez. We got a little more salsa here. Okay. And
you can throw that one on there, heat it right up.
Got to work on you too.
And
because it's a team effort.
That's right. And I would encourage people who are watching, who have been struck by what they've been seeing, the films from El Salvador, the vision of cispes, to get in touch with us, to call us up. Find out we're a national organization. We have chapters, committees all across the country. If you're interested in helping in projects we do, we work on human rights. We do interesting things called workathons.
Let me do one for you too.
Sure, thank you.
Okay.
Where we work on building community projects, volunteering to help in this country on projects that are worthwhile and are self-sustaining. And some of the funds that we raise from these kinds of projects then go to help the projects that we support in El Salvador. We continue to push for peace, for democracy, and for people's justice,
and
so that everyone
healthy diets for everybody,
so that everyone can have burritos.
One of the secrets for eating the burrito, when you roll it up, make sure that you plug up the back end so it doesn't all fall out. Learn that at home. Thank you for watching. We certainly enjoyed having you by, John.
Thank you
for this delicious meal.
Thanks for letting me talk for a while.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye now.